Dad, got an extra machete if you need one.
I think I'm okay. Thanks.
Wow.
What's up, Goth Gamer Nation and Goth Hunters, and welcome to Darkened Streams, wherein I review every one of the 327 episodes of Supernatural, or however many YouTube allows before shutting me down. What did we learn in the last episode? You can't let the pain of those you've lost keep you from happiness. After all, Dean has needs. And also, sometimes you can't solve every hunt by burning one thing. Sometimes you have to burn 3 things before you figure it out. So when in doubt, burn things. Season 1, episode 20, entitled Dead Man's Blood, was written by Catherine Humphreys and John Shiban. This is the first episode with Humphreys' name attached as a writer, and her first credited writing gig, the first of 7 episodes throughout the next 4 seasons, but she would also be the story editor for seasons 3 and 4 before jumping to do the same for Mad Men. This is the 5th episode with my guy, my desperate link to X-Files, John Shiban, with his last one being episode 15, The Benders. Ordinarily, I'd say this would ensure a quality episode, but we are muddying the waters with some new blood here, and in the midst of a pivotal lore episode no less. Dead Man's Blood was directed by first-time last-timer Tony Warmby, who previously directed 7 episodes of X-Files! Let's fucking go! Hang on before you get too excited. These are late original series episodes. We're talking Doggett and Reyes era. Now, I don't have a problem with that, but I understand there's a divide there, and it's only right that I disclose that. If you're not that familiar with X-Files, this was the run of episodes after the 2 leads stopped showing up in the show, which produced some fun episodes, but also they weren't there, so why bother? Supernatural's no stranger to doing that same thing, thinking that the concept could stand on its own without the 2 leads, and that leads to some of the worst episodes of the series. I guess it sounds like we're getting a whole show of that soon. Exciting stuff. In the cold open, we meet an older hunter named Daniel Elkins in a bar in Colorado. At this point in the series, they really make it seem like the Winchesters are the only ones that give a shit about the supernatural, so it's nice seeing that there is more going on in this world. See, they took my suggestion. You open with an X-Files actor, and then I'm sold the rest of the episode. This has got to be like the 3rd or 4th time somebody from the season 1 episode Squeeze winds up in Supernatural. He plays the first guy who was murdered in that episode's cold open and sort of kicks off the investigation, and I guess that's exactly what he does in this episode as well. I feel like it's a weird thing to get typecast for, but he's good at dying, I guess. A gang of ruffians, troublemakers it looks like, enters, and Elkins seems to be spooked by them, so he runs off but is followed home and attacked.
What do you want?
What do you think?
What? He tries to hold them off but is restrained before he can assemble this complicated looking gun. At a diner in Nebraska, good old USA. Sam and Dean aren't having much luck finding something to hunt, but it's real funny that they follow up on the plot from the last episode, and Dean is still trying to get Sam to hook up with Sarah.
New York, upstate. Stop by and see Sarah again. She's a cool chick, man. Smoking. You two seem pretty friendly. What do you say?
Sam stumbles on the story of Elkin's death, and Dean remembers his name from their father's journal, though it is 1 letter off, so maybe they weren't that close friends. Intrigued, they head over to his place, which is destroyed, but the boys can see that Elkins has been hunting since at least the 60s. In his death throes, he managed to scratch into the floor the coordinates of a safe deposit box. Inside is a letter addressed to their father, who happens to show up right as they are contemplating opening it. A lot of exposition and world building in this scene, which is incidentally how you do it. You'll want to dump it all into one conversation, right? Get it out of the way. Elkins anticipated his death because he was in possession of an important gun. John is really secretive about this gun around the boys, but makes it clear that it's imperative they find whatever took it, which was likely a vampire. Sam and Dean were under the impression that vampires did not exist, and John thought it was because they had gone extinct thanks to Elkins and the hunters of old. So we get the rundown of how Supernatural's vampires work, and they ain't your daddy's vampires. I'll tell you what, they aren't repelled by crosses. Sunlight is not much more than a mild inconvenience, so they aren't going to burst into flames if it touches their skin. Also, stake to the heart wouldn't do anything. The only sure way to kill one is to behead it. So pretty much the only familiar characteristic is that they live a long time and they need human blood to survive. Which I gotta say, allowing them to walk during the day really appears to cut down the likelihood that they'd also be goth, which is sacrilege to me. A big focal point of this episode is the renewed tension between Sam and his father. This is their first time genuinely working a case together, on camera, and at every turn Sam questions his father and becomes increasingly frustrated that he's keeping them in the dark. Dean is once again caught in the middle of them, attempting to be the voice of reason. Sam seems to think the year and some change that they've been on the road hunting has earned them a seat at the adults table, and they shouldn't have to take orders from John. But Dean, of course, is all too willing to fall in line if it means he has a happy little family again. Saving people, hunting things, the family business.
I mean, are you telling me you're cool with just falling into line and letting him run the whole show?
That's what it takes.
At the vampire nest, Kate, the sort of deputy of the vampires, presents the gun to a Chris Angel looking motherfucker named Luther. She decided to kill Elkins as a gift to Luther on account of all the vampires he's killed. But Luther chastises her because now other hunters will be looking for his murderer and the gun, which he knows to be no ordinary gun. Which is true, the Winchesters are hot on their trail thanks to how carelessly they feed. Seeing as though vampires are kinda rare these days, Kate and Luther have also been turning some of their victims. I got mixed feelings on the man, but they do a decent job depicting their father as a hardened, expert hunter. He's already several steps ahead at every turn. While they sleep, he just sits in the dark listening to a police scanner, just fucking alert, ready to hunt.
Dean, let's go.
After they track down the nest, John decides to let Sam and Dean in on the big secret while they gear up for an assault. This is an important part of the lore, and also one of the goofier parts of it, but in short, in 1835, on the night of the Battle of the Alamo, I don't know how well known that conflict is outside the US and Mexico, but in short, a bunch of people killed each other for control of the spot where they filmed Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So that night, and coincidentally, when Halley's Comet passed overhead, Samuel Colt, the real historical figure, Samuel Colt, made a gun for a hunter. In retrospect, I think the Alamo and Comet details were just for flavor and didn't actually have any effect on this gun, cosmic or otherwise. But in any case, it is a magic gun that can supposedly kill any supernatural creature in existence. This will be nerfed considerably later, but for now that is technically true. It was made with 13 bullets and 7 now remain, and you need those specific bullets in order for it to work. John obviously wants to use it to kill the demon that killed his wife and Sam's girlfriend. The boys and dad attempt to sneak in and lift the Colt off the vampires, but Sam, attempting to free what was a hostage and is now a vampire, alerts the nest, and they all book it back to their cars, knowing they will wait till nightfall to attack in full force.
What the hell do we do now?
You gotta find the nearest funeral home, that's what.
Sammy? What that mean? While Dean goes out to get something to prepare for the fight, Sam and John have an intense conversation that is not only a standout scene in the episode, but the season, I'd say. It's also important for Sam's development, lest we forget we are still in the Kripke era when Sam had a personality. He's got a lot of repressed anger, and you can see that when him and his father have a big blowout in the middle of the road.
Get back in the car.
No.
I said get back in the damn car.
Yeah. And I said no.
All right, you made your point, tough guy.
It's probably the most acting Jared's had to do so far, and it's pretty good. And that is followed up by a great performance between the both of them, as John explains that he never wanted his children to live as hunters. But at a certain point, all he could see of the world was evil, and he admits that eventually he stopped being their father emotionally. Sam's visible unburdening during this talk is really well portrayed, and they bond over the fact that after Jess's death sent him on a year-long road trip to find her killer, the both of them have much more in common psychologically than most people.
Whatever happened to that college fund?
Spend it on ammo.
Dean returns with a big jug of dead man's blood, which they use to coat crossbow bolts, as it acts like a disabling poison to vampires. They successfully use this to take Kate captive and kill one of her goons. Even though a lot of classic vampire lore is removed, I do like that there are some fun details like this to mix things up and have there be little things they can do to outwit the vampires, like coating themselves in the ash of a certain mixture of herbs to mask their scent. It's almost like hunting is more than just shooting things. They plan to have John take Kate and drive off, luring Luther plus Colt to him, while Sam and Dean clear out the nest and rescue the humans locked up there. All three have one last argument after John says he wants to go it alone from here and not involve them in his feud with the demon because he doesn't want them in harm's way, and he knows he likely won't survive this confrontation. For once, Dean chimes in and takes Sam's side, reminding him of everything they hunted already, some of which were things he couldn't successfully hunt himself. Nobody really agrees to this plan, and they all just walk away from each other looking grumpy. John confronts Luther and some of the other vampires to make a trade for the Colt, which almost goes smoothly until Kate is able to free herself and a fight ensues. Sam and Dean had doubled back and followed their father and are able to take out some of the lesser vampires, but Sam is grabbed by Luther, who threatens to break his neck.
Gonna be okay, Sammy. He's hurting my neck, Dean. We're gonna get you out of here and back to Sarah. What?
We finally get to test out that Colt, and it appears to do what was advertised. Luther seems to fight it, but the gun super extra kills him. Like they shot his fucking soul or something. There is literally no way he could ever be in Rush Hour 3. Later, John agrees that they are stronger as a family and that they should go after the demon together. Never really been a fan of this interpretation of vampires as sort of inelegant, uncomplicated gangs with a goofy vortex of overlapping teeth, and the casting feels off for them as well. I feel like they were going for some specific look, but it looks like people cosplaying as badasses. I don't like to think of vampires as just douchebags in affliction shirts and leather armbands that have lived hundreds of years and were witness to countless significant historic events and consumed several lifetimes worth of knowledge, yet still choose to live like the Sabbat, not bothering to cover their tracks and living in a shitty fuck barn. I think this is a necessary episode, and it accomplishes what should be done with a lore episode. It adds a new goalpost, explains a new element of the supernatural, and it develops two of our characters with a rather poignant scene, and all set across a pretty entertaining hunt. As is no surprise for season 1, there are plenty of well-shot, atmospheric scenes. This is one of those episodes where the story demands most of it take place at night, and even when they're out during the day, it's still overcast and gloomy. There's even a shot meant to illustrate that the sunlight doesn't immediately kill vampires, and I have to imagine they just made the color grading warmer, so it looks like the sun's out, and like, it ain't. Off the top of my head, I don't remember them carrying over the visual effect on their eyes. They have that reflective glare to them like a cat, and I kind of like it. It's subtle and well used. I don't know if I should be praising the Supernatural crew for using a cool effect on a monster's eyes, though, as that is sort of their one trick.
I'll pass. I usually draw the line in necrophilia.
We're stronger as a family, Dad. We just are. You know it.
We're running out of time. You two are all I've got. But I guess we are stronger as a family.
A woman in Iowa fell 10,000 feet from an airplane and survived.
Sounds more like That's Incredible than Twilight Zone.